presentation is for elementary educators at an elementary campus, and our topic today is counseling and college career and readiness. What is our counseling program and who is served in this program? So our counseling program is served through a developmental approach. Texas has adopted a developmental approach for counseling and guidance counseling at the elementary level. And it used to go from a traditional, more of a reactive type of guidance counseling to being more proactive, using priority type structured lessons and using whole group and small group counseling sessions. There's emphasis on the program, student goal attainment. They evaluate and improve the program, and there's a lot of collaboration that goes on between the staff, the teachers, and administrators to help make sure that we're providing the best type of guidance lessons for our kids and what they need. Do students have to qualify to receive guidance counseling? And the answer is no, there's no qualifying screener, and all kids are serviced. All kids can receive guidance instruction, and counseling can be offered to any learner who requests it. Plus, there are guidance lessons that are given to every class and all students. Parents can also request to have maybe a set or structured or consistent time that maybe they want their child to meet with a guidance counselor weekly or monthly, and it could come after a death in the family or something that they feel that the guidance counselor could support their child with. What do we provide and who supports these students? We provide guidance curriculum, so that's whole group curriculum. There are some small groups that we do with learners and one-on-one. We do responsive services, so not only we can respond to immediate needs of learners and any type of threats and abuse, things like that. We are very responsive, so we have a service and a protocol for that. We have individual planning and then system support. Who supports these kids? Teachers work alongside the school counselor to support students in the classroom, and it is the teacher's responsibility to report or seek assistance if concerns arise. We are mandated reporters, and so if we do not report, that can put us in a liable situation. So we are mandated to report anything, even if we think it's small or nothing, and reporting that to the guidance counselor and administrators as well. And so it's very, very important for teachers to make sure that they're diligent in watching their students to see if they have any noticeable changes in behavior that last, for longer than a day or two. That could maybe throw up a red flag that maybe you need to have some collaboration with the guidance counselor on next steps. What instructional approaches are used? Here at Pinkerton, we strongly emphasize Kelso's Choices. That starts in kinder, and Kelso's Choices are a strategy-based program that we use to help teach kids to solve problems or conflict with others. We give them a bunch of choices, and that is taught all the way K-5. We also use restorative practice lessons that can happen during guidance counseling sessions. There are lessons on stress, emotional management, self-awareness, whole class guidance, small group social skills sessions, and then also we have big priority topics that we focus on throughout the year in every grade level that focus on anti-bullying, alcohol and drug use, strangers, student agency, and being safe outside of the school. How do we monitor these learners? That's oftentimes a big question. How do you know if your child is learning stress management techniques? How do you know if they're feeling like they're feeling okay at school? We do use several different methods to gather feedback from our kids and our families regarding guidance and their social emotional health. One of those, of course, is feedback from learners after guidance lessons, but a big contributor that gives us a lot of feedback is our spring panorama survey that learners take. And so every learner third grade and up through 12 takes the panorama survey, and that focuses on how they feel at school, if they feel their needs are being met, how they feel about their emotional health, and then parents take the survey for their K2 child in the primary. And so this gives us a lot of great feedback that we can dive in and look at, and that helps us reflect and future plan for the next and upcoming school year. You know, we have an SEL program that we use here on campus, and those focus on morning meetings, those focus on check-ins in the morning, reflections at the end of the week, and a lot of times we gather lots of good feedback on that. You know, is there anything you want to tell me? What are you looking forward to this weekend? How are you feeling today? Those kinds of questions to really check in, so they're thinking about their emotional state, and then we're also engaged in wondering how they're doing. As well. And then of course those parent communications, and then students who request a one-on-one meeting with our guidance counselor, absolutely we reach out and make sure that that happens for that child. Some common mistakes that some teachers could make when dealing with a guidance or a counseling related issue. When children act out differently, sometimes teachers may think, oh, you know, they just don't like that subject, and it's kind of hard to differentiate whether it's something school related that, you know, that they're struggling with and that's why they've acted out, or is it something else? And a lot of times, you know, if it's isolated and it happens, you know, one small little moment in a day, it probably is related to just the subject or something maybe they're not as interested in learning about. But if you're seeing a change, drastic or subtle, in their typical normal behavior, and that's lasting longer than 2-3 days, that would put up a big red flag for me that maybe I need to investigate that a little bit. A way to avoid that is to just really listen to your students, watching for any changes in their typical behavior, and anytime you notice that change, it's always good to just seek guidance. And speak to the guidance counselor, speak to your administrators, tell them what's going on. That way we can try to see if we can offer some support and figure out, you know, what's going on. A lot of times parents and families at home don't think to let teachers know if something happens, a pet dies or something happens at home, and they have, you know, full families, and sometimes they don't always let us know these things. And we see firsthand the difference in behaviors that just something very subtle or change in routine at home can have on a child in the classroom. And so it could be just something minor, but it's always good to investigate those things. Another would be any type of like fake threat or fake suicide threats. Some people might, some teachers might have the misconception that at the elementary level, you know, children are just being silly and joking. You know, when they say those things, they don't really know what that means. And believe it or not, we have had suicidal threats at the 5th grade level, so at the elementary level in our district. So it is a very real thing, and we have to take any kind of a threat seriously. It puts us in a liable situation if we think it's nothing and do nothing. And so we definitely don't want that to happen. So anytime that there is any type of threat, maybe we always have to take it seriously. You always have to reach out to your guidance counselor administrators, so that way it can be investigated, and hopefully it is nothing or it was a joke, and it, you know, nothing happens beyond that. So our other part of our program is college and career readiness. Some of you might be wondering, how in the world would we have anything to do with college and career readiness at the elementary campus? And some of you, you know, are right. Of course we're not scheduling college visits at the elementary level, and of course we're not, you know, planning and preparing them for the ACT or the SAT, but this exposure to the career world happens and starts in the elementary level, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What is it, and how do we facilitate this at the elementary level? So college and career readiness at the elementary level is of course going to look way different than middle and high school, but what we feel that college and career readiness is at the elementary level is just giving them opportunities to explore, opportunities to have exposure to different types of careers, and getting them to kind of play around and explore those passions in a very safe environment. You know, kids at this age are just learning who they are. They're learning what they love and what their passions are, and sometimes they don't know that yet. They don't know what all there is out there in the world. And it's our job as elementary educators to expose them to a wide variety of different career choices and paths that they could take. That way they could develop some interests and passions in things that they may not otherwise have had an opportunity to explore. What do we provide for our learners? So here on our campus, we are heavily devoted to project-based learning, like real-world application type problems. We focus on STEM and coding opportunities in our library makerspace. And then we also have lots of community involvement and community support. So we rely heavily on our parents to come in and share about their career as it relates to our IB global units. And even being an IB program, it gives us and provides us with great opportunities to expand globally and think in a global perspective. And so it gives them opportunities to just really express their ideas and explore in a safe way. Who supports these learners? All part of our internal and external publics. So that's going to include our regular teachers, our administrators, our support staff. That's going to include our families, parents, community members, anyone we could reach out to that could donate things for us to use, or that we could partner with, like the Las Colinas Credit Union that we could partner with for a bank with our school. Having parents come in to share about their careers, a banker if we're learning about money, things to get them excited and exposure to just new things that they might not otherwise have learned. So what kind of instructional approaches do we use on our campus? We keep an open dialogue and we talk unbiasedly about lots of different topics with kids. We want them to talk and have open conversations about different careers and how that looks. We enlist outside support, like we talked about earlier. We encourage goal setting in all parts of the day and all subjects. We really strongly encourage that, and we celebrate those victories and small achievements. And that's going to keep them thinking about what's coming ahead. And then we provide lots of enrichment opportunities. We have, project-based learning experiences, our makerspace for STEM and coding. And then, of course, we have our Pinkerton Patch Garden, outdoor garden, where we do a lot of learning experiences and we teach them lots of new things out there. How do we monitor learners in the program? Once again, their overall a sense of emotional health, how they're feeling about school, if their needs are being met, if they feel prepared for the next grade, if they feel like they are part of a group and community, if we feel like they got a chance to explore their passions. All of those are questions that are asked to those students on our panorama survey. And so it really, asks them a whole lot. We do a lot of social emotional lessons on careers and what we might be doing in 5 or 10 years. And so that's all part of their emotional health too, is getting them thinking beyond just elementary school, getting them thinking beyond them here in Coppell, but maybe in our world. And then of course those check-ins and reflections, we can pose different questions to get them thinking about their passions and what they love. And some common mistakes that are made or misconceptions. Sometimes we might think that learners are just too young to do anything college and career related at elementary level. And really, to avoid that is just to have the mindset of thinking that they're never too young to have that exposure. And some of us might also think that, well, I have strengths and gosh, I've never done coding. I never did that when I was in school. Or gosh, I was never a good writer. I'm not a very good writing teacher. And so sometimes that limits the limits that we have. Sometimes we're hesitant to offer up those opportunities to kids because we may not know how to guide them. We may not know how to help them with it because we're not very knowledgeable in it ourselves. And the way to avoid that is to provide those opportunities anyway, and seek the help of experts in your building. If you know a certain teacher is great with coding and does a lot with coding, reach out to them. Have them show you a few things. That way you can expose it to your kids. If you know someone is a fabulous writing teacher, reach out to them and ask them, hey, give me some help and some guidance. That way you can still provide those opportunities. Do not let your own limits limit your students and the opportunities and exposure they might have. And here were my additional resources that I used for guidance and for college and career readiness. Thank you for attending the program today.